Never actually knew there was a footpath on here, but it goes to this industrial estate, which I thought was a dead end, just an industrial estate, to Fortech. Fortech with a Q on the end, right next to the big anti's Brighouse. Fortech, which is more comedy, corporate comedy. So I don't know how old this path is because you can't. It just goes onto industrial estate. I don't know what was here before this industrial estate, because obviously when you come onto it with a vehicle, you come on from the road, the main road. There's some small cottages there actually, and the new McDonald's Gallagher retail park. Maybe this was here before, and somehow they incorporated it into this walk. I think that's probably what happened, because it does look quite old, this walk. So it likely came past those cottages at the end, and then when they built the new industrial estate, it sort of goes into the industrial estate, but it would have probably gone through little tiny ponies. So I'm going to get a decent see what other views I can get of this hill fort from this side, which is kind of like a elevated. Oh, you can just see the top corners of it now, there and there. So you always used to look at it, it's the thing that you always used to think in the back of your mind whenever you looked at it and saw it. Just because the layout of Huddersfield is Castle Hill, and as you come out of town there are all these forests on slopes, and it is actually beautiful. It's got, from Aspley Wharf coming into town, Huddersfield has got this sort of, it's not recognised for it because the town centre is not very interesting anymore. On the Huddersfield Then and Now group, there are some amazing photos of actually what buildings were in and around the town centre, like the Horseshoe Pub and a lot of other ones. There were a lot of, like, when you go to Wakefield now, the things that I like when I go to Wakefield Centre is like they've got this, like, it's a pizza shop now, and then it was called like the Monkey Bar, but it's kind of like you know, an old traditional building, you know, and in Wakefield they've still got the old Guild Hall. Those are the nice things that you like to go and see in Wakefield, and they've got quite a few cobbled streets in Wakefield as well, which I like to see. But Huddersfield has I don't even think there's not even one original building on the main street. It's like they pulled out all the history of it. And now looking on that group, the Huddersfield Then and Now group, that Hudson guy's got over 20,000 people on there. He's got some amazing photos on there, and it actually was, if certain buildings had been preserved, when you'd have walked around the town, it would have had some bit of interest and curiosity to remind you of, this is an old place and it's been here a long time. But with those key elements removed from the town centre, when you walk around the town centre, it almost feels like Leeds, which Leeds was all water in the prehistoric times, and Leeds isn't that old. Like Bradford is a more of a modern city. Bradford's got some old buildings, but we're talking about before the Industrial Revolution, you know? So it doesn't inspire any sort of affiliations with this historic element like Leicester, the Guildhall. You see, in Wakefield they've got the police college, and it's meant to be a police college, and it's all like college buildings, and even though Wakefield is quite rough actually, but I actually like Wakefield, you know, they're in the suburbs, but it has got the Guildhall and a few other little key things, the cobbles, and people like going out drinking on those streets, and there's all got the side entrances with the cobbled roads. It has got elements retained of this kind of old bit. Now, what Huddersfield Town Centre are doing now, they've ripped apart all the cobble bits and it's all new. Now, with this constantly happening, they've got a habit of never ending. It's in a perpetual regeneration, never satisfied, always in the pursuit for more. Huddersfield now has become this kind of media centre sort of place, and all those very old buildings out there, so the young people don't, A, they don't affiliate with that, B, they've got no interest in that, and C, therefore, what they do affiliate with, and this Huddersfield regeneration groups and the media centre and all that, is with the tech. And then they've brought in the university, new building with the students from abroad, and they've got all tech for them. So it's almost like aspiring to be a technological media breeding ground of the youth. Now that's all right, but if you look at places like, you know, not the thing with somewhere like York is Huddersfield, that hill there and the hill forts is older, more traditional than the entire city of York. But when you come here, you don't get that sense. You know, and I know Oswestry is only a town, but it's got old bits and new bits, and then it's got Ilford at the side of it, which they haven't built on. And same with Maiden Castle. Dorchester are vehemently, you know, protective over that Maiden Castle. Now, and there's another little conversation I could go into that with Queen Elizabeth, you know, Maiden Castle, and the fact that, oh, they haven't damaged the Maiden Castle, but yet the actual real-life maidens in West Yorkshire, where you'd think the very, you know, remnants of Brigantes are, we've had more influx of immigration since, you know, the 60s, 70s. I was talking to a bus driver. Bus driver said to me, this is what bus driver said, and I'll quote him now, I'm not going to tell a lie, right? He's retired now. Bus driver said to me, right, he said these words. I asked him, he says, well, because I were born in mid to late 70s, right? So I said, what happened with all, in West Yorkshire, with all, you know, I'm not being discriminative or anything. I just wanted to know, genuinely curious, what happened with all, you know, when all the Asian people came over into Huddersfield, what happened? Well, they said that they were wanting to expand in the factories and the mills, right? They were wanting to do more industry and step it up, but people didn't want to. They just were happy with their own careers and their own jobs in normal life, right? And people didn't want to do all this extra work and extra hours to fill the mills, so they brought them all over to do that. That's what I was told. And I'm not lying, right? So, actually, all the people who were labourers in England, craftsmen, skilled people and workers, even mill people, you know, like, you know, they've got the Cotswold cottages, you know, in Bybury Village, you know, with the weavers' cottages and stuff like that. You know, they're doing, you know, weaving and they're doing things like that. The mill industry, you know, they've got weaving cottages and stuff, you know, like Haworth, places like that. But they didn't have this extent. So, actually, people didn't, you know, want to go into overdrive. So really we were forced into it. We were forced into this overdrive of mass production, and that's when they brought a load more people in and then got them, you know, I'm not saying one way or the other what's right or wrong, but what I'm saying is that's what happened, right? And it just happened, you know, in certain places were chosen, like Blackburn, and that was selected strategically, and, you know, Leicester, and then West Yorkshire, and obviously London, places like that, you know. So it's motivations, you know. I mean, now we've had quite a lot of Polish people come over, but I'm not, I mean, I know I put that video, the Irish video, you know, I put that Irish video on to do with that campaign they're doing, and that was the point of view, you know. I'm not in disagreement with that view either way. I'm like, I agree with the majority points in that statement, what they made, right? But at the end of the day, I just want to, it's about seeing the facts and seeing the truth, you know, actually what's going on and what happened, you know. And the thing with York is, York, now, when you go there and when you walk round it, they've got the cathedral, they've got the all the old buildings and new buildings, they've got modern tech buildings, they've got a lot of old and new buildings, they've got all the army stuff, they've got all the cathedral, you know, and then they've got all the Roman parts of the walls and, you know, Viking stuff. They've got a lot going on. You've got a very even balance of interests in York. And don't tell me you don't have computer whizzes, tech whizzes, people who are into engineering in York, archaeology, industry. It's very mixed. But the thing with Huddersfield is that there's been this passion and drive of mainly Barry Shearman and the Huddersfield Council.gov to want to obsess with only the tech side of Huddersfield, and all you really get on the traditional historic side is, you know, Pigeon Park and a couple of museums which aren't that interesting, and then they want a cafe with more ice cream on the Hillfort now. They had a pub on there which was quite old, it's 1700s, you know, and a lot of the locals are disgruntled about that getting pulled down. Hello, Ossie. So, you know, the thing is, the layout of this place with the three sites and the river, it's actually more ancient and old and interesting actually than the entire city of York, the entire city, really, you know. So, and it gets, you know, and the thing is, people think, oh, just a hill fort or just stones, that interesting. Don't get me wrong, because if you go onto these Facebook groups, right, which is where I'm getting my signatures from, the ancient stones and ancient sites groups are absolutely, they're massive. They've got so many people interested in it. It's unbelievable. And they're all taking photos of all the stones. They like to go over and touch the stones, take photos of them. You can't stop them. They're addicted to taking photos of them, like it's the Stonehenge Dronescape Sky. They love stones and they make them look really beautiful and pretty, and people will go there and visit them. So there is interest in ancient sites when you present them properly, and when you actually encourage the interest in it and understand it. And the other side of it is this, right? If we sort of take into account the advent of Christianity, because remember when the Romans came over, right? Christianity was illegal, right? It was illegal, and so was the Druid culture, right? They were illegal in the Roman Empire. So none of them were having the religions in that sense in control, because the Roman Senate Empire wanted control, right? And then the Caesars. So it's about power and spiritual control over the people. Now, I'll tell you what, right? There is a intimate and deep connection with the psychedelics and movement with religion, right? And it's impossible to actually completely wipe it out and get rid of it, because people are naturally interested in it and know it exists. And you've got the whole Terence McKenna and Dennis McKenna. You've even got people researching it now. And the artwork that comes out of it is undeniable. Now, I'll tell you, in those Facebook groups, right? In those Facebook groups for psychedelics, now get to the hands-on actual thing, right? If there are even any original temples and sites left, if there are even any sites you can go into and go to in the original context and setting, if they haven't got mixed up with the burials, which are legitimately burials, not to get mixed up with the temples, which are legitimately temples, or made to look like burials after they've killed everyone and packed it in and blocked it off, if they couldn't get away with ripping it to pieces, right? Their psychedelic communities are massive. We're talking like groups that have 200,000 people in, which is more than what even the countryside groups in England pull in. The countryside groups in England pull in a lot of people. Now, the psychedelic groups on the world scale is equal to what the countryside groups are, and there are many of them. They're pulling, the numbers are even actually double the numbers, or triple, or even quadruple than what even just the ancient sites are. And the thing is, you've got the people who go to ancient stones and sites who are more archaeologists and more historical and more academic, who are just mainly into the actual sites and archaeology. Then you've got this actual psychedelic community, which is massive, which cannot deny the existence of this field, but are there any experts out there to even advise the council, to even advise the Dáil in Ireland? Because the problem is this, right? What's happened is we've got psychedelics as a subject, right? And then as a completely separate and different subject, we've got archaeology, right? And then somewhere in between both of those things, right? You see, you've got Terence McKenna and Dennis McKenna, you've got Jonathan Ott, all professionals, you've got, this Carhart guy, whatever he's called, at Imperial College in London, right? But they're purely on that subject. Then you've got the archaeologists like Mike Parker Pearson, and you've got Howard Crowhurst and Gail Higginbottom and people like that who are completely, purely studying the sites. Now, where are the experts in the actual religion of the sites with the sacrament? There aren't any. It doesn't exist anymore. And all we've got is the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Pope Francis, and the religious order, which are neither experts nor investigators in ancient sites or experts or investigators in psychedelics. They are trained in the college, there's actually a religious college in Murfield, believe it or not, just over the hill, just not far from this site, symbolically. But they're trained in, I don't know what they're training in, but I'm pretty certain they likely don't train them in psychedelics. I don't know what experiences they have with their breathing or their hands-on experience or their compassion, various other training. Maybe I should, be ordained and be a priest to investigate what they're actually teaching them. When you actually understand what's written down on the words, I don't know if these things are preserved and set aside only for those who are, achieve the credited awards and qualifications, through the priesthood. We don't know, but maybe we should ask Chris Edges, because Chris Edges is an ordained priest. Chris Edges is an ordained priest. So there aren't any experts. So who can you get advice from about ancient sites and the significance and importance to try and celebrate it? Firstly, they don't really want it celebrated, because although now we've become more liberal and open and understanding, all the psychedelics are illegal. So you tell me why there's 200,000 people plus in these groups who are interested in them when they're illegal. But yet there's as many or more people interested as in countryside, right? Archaeologists don't want to openly talk about it. Some are curious. Now, the only people you'll get talking about it, which is right on centre between all these things, is the hippies, like the Stonehenge Festival hippies and pikeys, and people who sort of what you call New Age people, bohemians, who are actually the ones who are out on site, not only trying to protect the ancient sites, but they're actually even trying to protect the woodlands and forests and natural places that go around them, like Extinction Rebellion and HS2 Rebellion, right? And they get it, they understand it, they understand the whole viewpoint, but they don't merge or melt too well with the archaeologists who want to go dig the places up and don't want to talk about it, want to keep the knowledge to themselves and a bit aloof and a bit snotty about it. And they don't connect with the actual psychedelics who are right into investigating and getting hands-on with the, the substances. A, it's illegal, and secondly, I don't really think that the archaeologists are quite into it that much to, or they don't let on they are, to come to some sort of official consensus on it. So what we've got is the existence of an actual field of study where there are no experts. There are none. No experts. Because it's A, illegal and not allowed, and B, all of the components and fields of study required to assemble the knowledge into fruition and official acknowledgement have been separated into separate fields of study and haven't properly been united and come to an understanding agreement of the sites, which where you'll need people like Terence McKenna. I mean, you get some of them sort of coming together a little bit at events, but then you've got like Hugh Newman who just a bit of everything, megalithomania. But I mean, Hugh Newman, he's got massive following, but he's a bit far out for me. I like him, and I think a lot of the stuff that he does is good, but then he's got some kind of crazy theories like on the giants and things like that, which I'm a little bit like, whoa, steady on there. But the thing is, with people like Hugh Newman, it's kind of a little bit like All or Nothing, and it's like all. He's sort of like, all of the crazy mysteries and theories, he'll just talk about them and discuss them no matter what they are, nothing's too far out, it's all interesting and unusual. So, programs like that, and when they do all these, what do you call it? Well, I went to Bath, I went to a mind states consciousness, convention, do they call it? That's not the word, a convention. When you get all these speakers from different places, and this is where you get these people mixing together somewhat. You'll get a priest speaking from the church who's a little bit interested in psychedelics. You might get that Sasha guy turning up who invented the MDMA. You might get somebody like Dennis McKenna turning up and that, and then they'll have a little bit, and they might go to some private house and go to some parties after and take some strange new drugs that one of them's been experimenting with or desiring that's not yet illegal, or it might be illegal, stuff like that. But it's not, you know, this is, and then, you know, what are the thing is, this subject, the reason why this subject is not straight with you is because it involves serious aspects of knowledge about religious, therefore political powers. Enough to where an army had to come over and wipe out an entire civilization so they could gain the control and power of the Europe, right? That's how serious and important it is, right? And, you know, eventually a religion that is accepted ends up absorbing from Ireland and Britain half of its entire basis. The church ends up absorbing half of this culture into it, symbolically, you know, with the woven Celtic reef knots and all the other things. Sort of, it semi-merges with it, but does not want to acknowledge all of the aspects and origins of where they're from and what they mean, because it doesn't want to give alms of spiritual power and understanding to the people, really, in the way that they get to understand why they've got the religion and what it is. It is more it's more of a theory only religion, where you attend the sermons and everything's written down in paper in the books, and then the priest leads the congregation funny, and that's how it goes. And the priests are the only ones who get access to knowledge and training and being ordained and everything. And that's for the baptism, which I strongly believe that, you know, this rebirth and baptism is intimately part of this, you know, newborn, born again Christian, where they got that from, where they pulled it from, where they got the term from, because it is the rebirth. So, I mean, and there are other aspects to it as well, which I'm not going to go into. So, you know, we've got this situation, and then you've got, because imperialism, rulership, and monarchy is the seat of power for whatever nation has still got it, and the religious order around that. Now the Queen here is the head of the church. She's not just, you know, she's symbolically, she's meant to be the head of the church. Now the kings of the Celtic clans were not the head of the Druid order. The Druid order was nationwide and was in charge, well, sort of spiritually in charge of the whole tribes, and they just had local kings and queens. Now, I actually believe that the talk that the rulers had was symbolic of the Druids giving them the knowledge, and they'd achieved the knowledge and rulership to be, you know, to wear the talk, which symbolises the knowledge as well of all the motions and movements of all the astral heavens and bodies and things. Obviously, they've been taught with it, but, you know, they weren't Druids and they weren't in the Druid order. So the actual spiritual order was distinctively different and separate from the actual royal family and monarchy. Although some of them would be sent to study Druidry. But, you know, once you actually learn about this knowledge, once you learn about the understanding and then actually accept it officially as a subject, then you're actually getting into what is the spiritual power and what is the religious power, and using it and understanding how it's working, and how are people being ruled and governed. And it comes into governance power, which now politics is governance power. But we've got now issues with advertising, other people's visions and dreams being projected out with mass power of television and radio and billboards, funded by money, not just individuals. It's not about the idea and power of the individual and what they're seeking. It's about whether you've made money from other people to get it. And that's the thing now, people with all the money have all the power, and they use psychologists and advertising to affect and control people. Now you might have said, well, didn't they, what the Druids doing that with the psychedelics? Yes and no, you can do that, but the thing with the psychedelics is, when you use them, there is a self-education, a self-learning aspect to it, which is intimately connected to the individual's ability to assimilate, understand, interpret the whole world themselves and their place in it from a very independent position, which is not strongly influenced or subjected to certain exterior forces, particularly if you go into chambers which are effectively like the current self-isolation tanks that they're using in psychedelic experiments. So they might have been guided by the Druids and then been able to have been influenced, but in doing that, you're learning what it is to do that and how it works. For example, different studying human emotions and how they're used and energies and things like that. Which is how they manage to get people to agree and come together to move the stones and put them into place and all that. And the wind, the air, the water, the divine courses, the Holy Spirit which equates to the sciences. Now, we've got the sciences. Now, currently, there's a lot of substances that are unlawful and illegal. So, there are reasons why some are illegal, because they can be addictive and mess people up. But there are other ones that don't, and they've got certain effects and influences on people, which are not in line with what the government wants to play out and do. So, those are the issues that we're facing at the moment. So this footpath with these horses here does not look much to you now, but it's running alongside what would have been one of the most significant, I'm not saying best, because I don't think we should use that word best, one of the most significant, there are bigger and busier ones, hill forts, occupied hill forts from the ancient prehistoric world. And I don't know if this path was there before or not, but I know it was here before that industrial estate was built, but is this an ancient ridgeway and pathway or not? Got the other hill there. The distance between the edge of that hill there and the actual embankment, it's quite a fair bit of space. It actually would have been quite hidden in this bit, but then it's not that far to the river, and then looking out, you got a nice view. People need to go see Old Oswestry, I think. This is another council, danger overhead electric power lines. Do not take or erect long objects past this point. So, I don't know if that's some sort of obelisk joke or what, but it's obviously got to do with there are power cables overhead, but who put them there? I've walked on many footpaths in my life. That's the first time I've ever seen that sign. I've seen electric cable signs before. Oh, there, it's just a normal, there it is. Coming close to it. That I've walked under loads of those many times, and I've never seen that sign. In fact, I've walked past roads that have got these cables all over the place, and then when it's got this, anything to do with power, anything to do with head or overhead, right, next to the hill fort. And also when you go up to the view by the Freemasons' Arms, they've got, the council have got these signs up going high accident route or something, or caution, something to do with high up, and it's not even that high up. But yeah, they haven't maintained the road or put a nice lay-by pull in there. They've kind of left it just rubbish. So that's to do with these pylon things. But I'm going to climb up here now and go up there to take a good photo of it and get a decent view. So I'm going up this bit now. It's quite a nice field. It's got quite a nice vibe here. I quite like that footpath as well. Walking on that footpath, it had quite a nice kind of vibe to it. It's not the most beautiful footpaths ever, but it's actually quite a cool vibe. And this hillside here, got these kind of little trees on, but they're only new. I've been thinking maybe we could go up that Ringwood place, up the embankment, and maybe we need to count the rings on the trees to see how long they've been there. They kept saying, how long have those trees been there? Well, you need to count the rings on them. But it's funny, it's called Ringwood, but how many times have they been replenished? Are they all actual original ones? We're quite interesting to find out. It's quite cool here actually. Quite friendly, that horse as well. I think that horse is happy. You can tell when somewhere's got nice energy. I went up to Marsden the other day and coming back down with 2 horses and they looked miserable. I just started talking and making that video before, and the horse came right up close and he was like really happy that I was there talking. This feels nice. If you look at those old speed maps, the name Speed, the person who drew the maps, and if you look at some of the old maps, it doesn't say Waterloo. And we're going to get into a massive conversation about them. I need to read those Varley. I need to read the Varley excavation details for Castle Hill, because it mentions, someone said that it does mention this Ringwood Hill. Now I don't know whether Varley snubs it off and says it's not relevant or not. But what happened is the war broke out when he started excavating Castle Hill. And then after the war, when we get into the 70s, or I don't know whether it was late 60s, early 70s, they ended up building on there. So that means they've had to dig all the plumbing up, do all the water. That means they've dug into the hill. Not content with someone trying to quarry into the side of it at some point, they've actually, I don't know how much they've ruined in it. And I think that to build those houses, now I don't know if they found anything. Did they have a secret guy up there undercover from the Archaeological Society? You know, did the Royals plant someone up there to be walking around when they were building houses? So if anything was found, any talks or jewellery, then it would quietly be, you know, keep quiet about it and put it in a bag. Did they find out there, or did they think, oh, we'll have a little bit of a dig down, we'll put houses on there, it'll give us an excuse to dig it up? And how can we know where the roundhouses were now if there were any? Because when Varley was doing it, they didn't have all the scanning that we've got now. On Main Castle, how is it they can say, there was a roundhouse here, there was a roundhouse there, there was a roundhouse there, and they've got shapes of them, right? Now we get it ruined. They didn't want you to find out exactly where the roundhouses were on there, because then you could even likely identify an exact roundhouse, maybe even a larger size one, and say, wow, you know, that's something, right? They didn't even want you to be able to do that. So that has been marred. It's been marred, and an insult to the word giving arms, a messy, it's being made a mess. And then we've got named Waterloo when they've put drainage and sewage plumbing for shit and piss coming out of it into the hillside, implanted like the Borg. You know the Borg on Star Trek when they implant all the fucking, you know, all the control chips in? Almost like it's been plumbed into it, the plumbing, right? Now it is a Waterloo. And, you know, so we don't know what damage has been done. It's all concreted with roads on the top now and houses. It's completely and totally vandalised. Now, it gives a new meaning to the term the Vandals. The Vandals had never seen vandalising. It's actually self-harm. It's like people who slit their own wrists. People who slit their own wrists and you know, like, you know, mutilate their own bodies. And the fact is, it's not even their history. That's the worst thing. If you come in from Hastings, right, it's not your history, is it? And that's why they don't care about it. And they've got to make it look like they care about it for the sake of archaeology, for the sake of learning, but it's not their history. It's not their history. And they don't really want it celebrated, to be honest, and they have to put up with it being celebrated, which is, you know, why you get a lot of troubles, particularly in Ireland. And we're lucky that Scotland is relatively, you know, it's got a lot of countryside left, and a lot of the sites, you know, are okay. and in Ireland. And to be honest, since the invention of the railway and trains, and that's, suddenly, to me, I don't like the fact that, photography and trains came in at the same time. Suddenly you get all the photos, but you get the ability to move around large objects in Earth and mess around with stuff. So we don't know how quick Tyler Hawkins was in there. Tyler Hawkins, swift as hawk, now we've got trains. We don't know if the Royals have been doing this to this. We don't know how quickly their agents, suddenly when they got trains and the railway, could quickly not just trot around on a horse and rally a couple of villagers together, a couple of villagers together. All the swift, Tyler Hawkins in like a hawk, how many places got blitzed and damaged. I think, well, there are burials. I know what a burial is when I see one, right? There's burial and a temple. And you can get smaller temples, which are chapels, right? And it's clearly obvious from the design and layout of it, right, that it's not just a burial. And I think some of them were, when the church took over, I think a lot of them were filled in. Probably maybe even going back to as that were happening, halfway through or to the end of the Roman period and into the Anglo-Saxon period when we've got these Arthurian legends. And there's this, people are trying to remember things, and it's all, Sword in the Stone and Lady of the Lake, and there's this struggle for ancient knowledge and memories from, but then there's this Christian movement that's wanting to get rid of it and have everything hands off. So there's conflict, I'm very dubious to what the archaeologists believe and what their carbon dating and all this suggests, because it's easy to contaminate things, and the way the methods they go around doing it, I think they're quite easily convinced when someone who had more scrutiny and was harder to convince. I think that they would be less susceptible, and obviously they don't have all the additional knowledge that's required, these archaeologists, If the archaeologists had been as interested, as Dennis McKenna and Terence McKenna, and plugged that into it, and also, and had been interested in religion as well, they could have come to more than just coming out with the very snub and aloof statements they come out with, which is they don't really want to say it, which is they know more than they're letting on, but they don't really want to talk about it, which is like what Richard Tice was saying the other day, getting people to talk about this is going to be the hardest thing, and then you've got people who sort of do know about it. They know quite, substantial amount about it to know what it is and what we should be studying and what we should be telling people. And that is a lot more than at the moment in what they're wanting to acknowledge, because everything graves and burials, it's, more graves and burials are being claimed than temples and chapels, which, it's, and then you've got reasons why people might want to forge things, so, and they've got the capacity to forge things now, so I don't think that as scrutinous tests, they could be doing more tests, and obviously testing by more different groups who have got less affiliations, so that, you could, get 5 different tests from 5 different labs who are not all clearly obviously affiliated, and make sure that the procedures are not able to be interfered with, because there's a lot resting on it. There's a lot of reputation. There's reputation resting on it, and there is knowledge and history in it, about who we are and where we're from, which is a lot, because to work out where you need to be going, you need to know your place, our place, and where we've come from, and that going forward, that's why I'm very dubious about Facebook going forward into this virtual meta world, when there are lots of serious issues on Facebook to do with administrators and moderators who don't really understand rights properly, and don't understand their own self and their own behaviour and their own personal biases that may be constituting to discrimination. It's not just about moderating other people. You've got to be able to reflect and moderate yourself. And to be honest, that's what the psychedelic experience is all about, reflecting on yourself and your own behaviour and understanding your own behaviour, you know. And even then, it's not always hard to control your own behaviour when you're just going for pies, because you've got other people trying to influence you. And, you know, you might even fight for pies, you might even fight a war for pies, but you might just be, you know, a sheep who's going along with it because other people are fighting a war for pies, and you might not realise the harm it's doing, you know. So kind of a little bit like Mike Graham on Talk Radio, he's got to, if he doesn't fight his position, then justify his own existence and justify his own, you know, if Mike Graham didn't justify, you know, the Republic of Mike Graham, which is, you know, more pies and pork, then, you know, what is he going to justify, you know? These are the problems that have been created by this mass culture, uncontrolled culture expansion, kind of daydreaming and sleepwalking into it. And they won't support us. If you went around knocking on doors, you know, and you get on with people and you're friendly and they'll say, you know, you get a lot of people agreeing with you and signing things and that. But once you get, you know, then, you know, once you start building momentum, you've got newspapers, media people with influence, TV adverts. It's not in the interest of the company's profit. Then they're knocking out billboard adverts, making a political point. When advertising was relatively new, you advertised the brand, okay, you could choose a name. Now, every company has got a very strong political presence. It knows how to use and utilise symbology into its influencer adverts. And when it's not a straight message like, you know, buy my pies and, you know, whatever, when it is, they can put more complicated and technical symbology and message into a photograph or artwork, and the few people with a qualification who can go into a courtroom and give evidence to a court and say, this image means this. There are no words. It doesn't say, you know, eat my pies and fuck yourself because I couldn't give them monkeys because you're going to get fat and I'm a rich bastard and I don't care about your health, right? If somebody's got an image that is trying to mislead someone or gain a political advantage or standpoint and influence people for the profit of that company only, for the money of that company only, and to the detriment of other people, then, you know, you need to, you know, you need people who are studying imagery and psychology and all that with the qualifications that are acknowledged with this government, because they won't accept my evidence or they won't accept my interpretation of it. You know, I could say it can be interpreted this way or that way, and you could get people to say, oh yeah, I can see that. But, you know, this is why there is a law saying that councils cannot publish anything that will influence an elector. But yet, we're finding that councils, instead of publishing it directly now, they are sponsoring, affiliated with, or friends with those who are publishing it, and those people who vote for their party and fund their party, like Boris Johnson's friends, and David Cameron's friends, and, you know, X, Y, or Z. The banks, which is why Extinction Rebellion are using strong political imagery and symbolism in their causes and campaigns. But the fact is that, yes, there are more normal people, and there might be enough normal people with sense who might be able to come together. But without money, and with the government wanting us to give to charity already, to cancer research and all these other things, when they're the cause of most of these problems themselves, they don't want us to have available funds and money to be able to come to oppose fairly the big companies who everyone's working for and obedient to, who have got massive amounts of money and can just click the fingers and put the influence advertising all around us, right? Easily, and then we are disarmed and at the mercy of group consciousness, which is being affected and controlled. And to be honest, once when I went round asking for petitions, there's only actually one guy who said to my face, he said, I'm not going to sign it, right? Every person I spoke to was really happy about, and it's just like whatever, until it got onto Facebook groups, and then the people started putting misinformation out there, and councillor came on and started misleading people and publishing on the Facebook group misinformation, claiming that I don't have rights and that he didn't understand anything or whatever, you know? This is the thing. The person who wouldn't sign it, this is the reasoning they gave to me. This is what they said, right? They said to me, I'm not signing it because when I needed help, when somebody was building next to my house and ruining my garden and views, nobody would help me. Nobody would stand by me. So therefore, why should I help anyone else? He had been... No one had helped him when he needed help, therefore being disgruntled and at a loss, it was over for him, and he therefore was not empowered or motivated to assist anyone else. Now to me, if that is the case of it happening, it means that people actually don't want the things to be happening what's happening, but no one's coming together and helping each other. And this is why television now, Philip Schofield, all these fancy TV people, that I'm alright Jack, I'm alright Jack, Anton Deck puts his hand in his pocket, there's a couple of £1 million there, you know. These people are, you know, do your house up, buy houses, do your house up, you know, do your garden up, go to B&Q. It's constant psychological influencer to put the foot to the pedal and go full speed. Now, the only reason people were not content or wouldn't be content with their lot, with the house and garden they've got and to do it up, is if somebody didn't put them in a position where they could get a nice one in the first place. And what we're hearing is, we're hearing from people who give me evidence in person, a statement, official statement, is that what happened is everyone was sort of happy with their lot. Everyone sort of was happy with life as it was. And everyone was happy talking to each other in the street, relatively, right? And it wasn't enough. The mill owners wanted more. They wanted to put the foot to the pedal to the metal and go full maximum speed in overdrive. And they wanted to bring people into the country to do the work to fill the mills up. Because people in England didn't really want to have to do all this. So what they end up doing is they get other people to do it, and then these people they bring in aren't quite as bothered and don't quite care about our history and heritage than we do. So, you know, Mr. Patel and Mr. Shiraz at the petrol station, even though it's a beautiful part of the village when you enter it and it's all quaint and it's been supposed to be protected by Yorkshire Water, they won't think twice about demolishing and cheating the planning rules and building a bigger petrol station which writes off the quaint entrance to the village because they want to make more money. They're trying to compete with the locals where they've moved in next to, and they want to be respected and be good as well. So they write it off, build it bigger. They want to make more money out of us. Then they can have, you know, a bigger, better place. But when they plonk it in the middle of it, it's not that decent anymore, particularly when there's 10 times as many pack it in between, right? And then, to add to it, then the government are making money out of it, and the Tories are only cared about their garden, their village, not even the other Tory voters' gardens and villages anymore. The Tories now are having to sell out their own voters because now the plan is it's still not enough. And now even their own Tory voters are having to sacrifice the right to object to building and the right to protest and things like that because Starship Command is building another division, a further division, a Tory upon Tories, where even Tory voters now are going to have to sacrifice, you know, in order to fuel the mega machine. And that's the problem. And that is why, because they're not satisfied. And this is the thing, oh, it's progress. Where are you and what you're doing? You know, technology, all the cassette tapes that are buried, all the cassette tapes, all the records, you know, all the CDs, and now it's all MP3, you know. they could have had means and ways to do things without rushing into it and creating all the material things, you know? And they think the problem is, oh, it's been hacked, someone's hacked it, there's not enough security, now we're going to have to scrap your computer and get a completely new computer. Why? Oh, just because of security. It seems to me like they're not realising they're making more problems. When it gets to a point where you had a nice village and the majority of people are nice to each other, right? And you've got one or two naughty boys, one or two bits of crime, right? What is progress? Is progress completely packing it in, right? And having to build a fence around your school because now we don't trust anyone or each other? How, Theresa May and Priti Patel, tell me what has progressed from to something better? Because the word progress means to improve. There has been no improvement. The threat and security issues have got worse. That is not progress. It is a retardation in progress. The only progress is that certain key people in government have obtained bigger lands and bigger areas and protected their interests to a wider extent where they couldn't give a monkeys about their neighbours or who they're arguing with over this and that, right? And they just still want more, to milk more out of everyone, so they can have more tech. Why? For more surveillance, more control, so they can get people to do what they want to do. Which wasn't that the problem in the first place. They couldn't get people to do what they wanted them to do. Now, no one can, because apparently no one can be trusted. Now, they couldn't get people to work in those factories and fill them up because the people were happy with their lot relatively and didn't need any more. So they had to bring other people in from overseas who would do it and who will build and ruin people's things, because usually people wouldn't do that to someone else. I wouldn't build someone a crap house in the first place. I would never build someone a shit house. Ever. I'd build them a decent one. Right? That's me. Because I'm not a Tory. Tory build them something crap and someone else something rubbish. Right? That's the Tories. And they have caused the problems. And Boris does not give a monkey's whatever speech he says. It's what he's doing. Taking away rights. All the time. Who is this man? What power has he got over you? Other than he's like a mini Wills. Or not a mini Wills, he's a big Wills. He's like a big cuddly Wills. He's like the big cuddly Wills opposite of mini me. He's like the big cuddly me. $1 million, Mr. Bond. It's like 1 million pasties, Boris. 1 million pasties. It's like some sort of opposite of mini me. And then he can take all the blame for it, or let Boris take all the flack, you know, with his Union Jack boxers falling out of a plane at great speed, and somebody's put a parachute on him so he didn't slam dunk. That's the problem. This is the Tories are putting the blame on other people, Oh, let the Tandys build a cafe up on Castle Hill, blame it on them. Get all the foreigners in to do go on to overdrive working, because then when they have to ruin everything, they can blame them. And then you can call us racist for even pointing this finger at them, because we're not allowed to say what the real problem is, because there's something wrong with us, racism or something. That is the problem. It's from the greed and corruption of Boris Johnson and Rees-Mogg. It's their greed and corruption on this planet Earth, and we need to get through to the minds of those men, because they're not being educated in Oxford about love and care, because they've probably not been with families who love and care. They've been sent off to private schools. We need to get through to the minds of these men, and we can't do that because they now have got the money and they've got all the power and technology to get into our minds. That's the problem. See, this is a great spot and view of the place. This is probably the best view of it now. But it's... well, there's a footpath along the bottom, and then you can sort of come through a fence where other people have been walking and coming through. And that field is, well, it's not anyone's private house property. and there isn't really much farming going on in it. It's more or less just a field, so it's just a farmer's field that it doesn't really use that much. And so is this one. There's no, there's no proper gate on there. There's just a flimsy, one of those temporary metal fence things that is put across it very loosely. And then those are houses and properties. You see, you couldn't get into this field, but they haven't built on it yet. You see, they're blocking all the view, all the views there now. They're absolutely jam-packing that in as much as they can. And actually up there, actually if you start recording in the full panorama mode, you can't change the zoom on it. If you start, if you zoom in to a bit more closer and you start recording, you can change while you're actually recording. So up there, that's where they've built the new houses there. Just now, I was up the other day, and at the side of it there's a beautiful house. It's not that old, but it's just got some really rustic elements to it. Old wall with some grass up against it, and this outside sort of what you used to drive your car underneath, like next to the garage. But it's just really, if university students were there, they'd think they'd won the lottery. You couldn't have anything better. It's that sort of kind of rusty, very, very kind of countryside-y sort of vibe to it. And I was just saying that up there the other day, if we're not careful, that's all going to be houses too, and it'd be a shame to lose that. Up there, they're building houses next to where the, not Nisa store, it's called One Stop now. I mean, when I was on the bus, I could look over and see it from there, but now, I mean, you can only just see only those people in the tower block. Only those people in that tower block now. From the road, even the people in the normal houses are struggling to see with other houses in front all the way down. So, it's pretty much written off, except from this side. Now you can actually see, so looking out from there, all around, I mean, you see, that's all trees there. But say like, there was an old schoolhouse there as well. It's not that long ago it was still up. I took photographs of that, and the next thing it got pulled down. There's the Beaumont Arms. You see there's houses and villages, cottages in between, and bits of grass. You see, why didn't they just, they could have expanded. You see, that type of building could have gone all the way out, and even if you went all the way up to the top, which is just farmland now, if they'd have bought that off the farmer, said compulsory purchase order, it could have gone more spread out, right? And they could have gone all lot further, all the way, maybe even up to Hopton, nice and steady, and it would all look nice because they'd all have bits of greenery in between. Why jam-pack somewhere in and blitz it, and then people aren't happy, and then have somewhere with absolutely nothing there, when it could have been all gradually spread out, and everyone, it was nice to look at, and then people could have come over and visited the hill fort, and they could have even if they've had a football pitch up there, at least that would have been something, at least you're not writing off all the heritage of it. At least it's like just play football on there, or even a park. The thing with Kirklees is, they've got, this is the thing, they've got Raven Knowles Park. Ravens Knoll Park is meant to be a park, when they could have had a park up there, which is insane. Well, you can see, like, so the river's just where that, the river is where that chimney is there, It's not far at all, really. In fact, it might be nearer than going to town. You see, it's the fact that they've even got this Fort Tech place here, which is corporate comedy. Oh, I will acknowledge it, Fort Tech. Oh yeah, funny, hilarious. Yeah, we'll acknowledge it. Varley wasn't acknowledging it when they built houses following on it. It's all the plumbing that's gone into it as well. It's just so upsetting and distressing. And I wouldn't mind if it was, ages ago. But I'm speaking to people. Went for a walk, because I went from that view up there the other day, and then on the footpath on there, which is a nice walk. And then I was speaking to a woman, and she says she remembers going up there in fields. There were fields up there, and they're playing them, right? So it's not that long ago. What happens? How does it happen? Is it central government is intercepting emails, or the post and the mail letters? Are they using agents or intervention? If something gets said and decided in a council meeting, do they go change it after on the computer, or do they send an agent into the council offices, into the filing cabinet, and swap it over? How does it happen? And why not happen to Maiden Castle and Oswestry, right? There is a force at work, an intervention, planning, strategic intelligence, ICI, Imperial Chemical Industries, Tulsa Museum with a park. Oh, why not have the park on the actual site? You know, why don't they build houses where the park is? There. The massive football field, huge. And one down there that you can't see from here. Loads of area. All up there. Oh, we'll put someone high up so they feel important. Right. All those houses there, right, they could have gone on the top of that ridge there and up there and felt higher up than there, more important. Like Blogsy from fricking Stone Eagle, from Stone Gargoyle House, or whatever he is, Football Manager's house, who's got the perfect Castle Hill view. And actually you can see the tower from here, but you can't see the platform. Once you're on there, you can just exactly see where it goes down and on there. You can just actually see the top platform of Castle Hill. And actually from Castle Hill, you can just see Castle Hill from that pool hill, which is the other long barrow shape. But you can't see Dunelm, you can't see the Meltham one from there. It's all plumbing. It's totally ruined it. I mean, if you are ever going to get some serious tech devices to establish if there are the exact positions around houses on there, which is what you'd want to do, like they've done at Maiden Castle, then you would want to leave it. Actually digging foundations for houses, digging plumbing, digging drainage and piping into the hill is, you know, there are archaeologists who say, oh yeah, well, it's destructive, it is the course of nature of archaeology, but we don't want to destroy too much. That is taking the piss and a half. It's doing even more damage. It has to have been malicious intent. There has to be. And I don't think we've got a body or authority that can investigate it. Can the National Trust investigate it? Can the Council of British Archaeology investigate it? Call for an investigation? Who prosecutes archaeologists? What is the word embezzling? Who created it? Why is it in the dictionary? Do embezzlers exist, or is it a fantasy word that has no reality at all? There is a word embezzling. It's used. There are embezzlers because we've gone, right? It exists. It's high-end crime, right? Who investigates embezzling? When was the last person prosecuted from embezzling? In the police archives and crime prosecution archives, right, back to the 1800s and, you know, when the police force were formed, has anyone ever been prosecuted and convicted of embezzling? Not Ronnie Briggs. Not Ronnie Briggs. Have there not been people prosecuted for embezzling? Right? If they have, it exists, right? Was it Ronnie Briggs? No, it's high-end crime. Look at David Dickinson. David Dickinson has been to prison for connection with crimes to do with fraud and artworks and antiques, right? And now he's been cleared and he's on television, right? He was prosecuted, so we're told, right? Art. People have been prosecuted and found of forging paintings. Tell me it doesn't exist. Tell me now no one has ever forged a painting, ever, and sold it. There's no such crime. I know PC Plodding going to investigate it in town, and I know that, you know, Leadbeater ain't going to investigate it, and likely if I write to police chief officer, he's not going to investigate it. They're meant to have a detective department, right? So when we have planning authorities and planning corruption, or people who are archaeologists, are you saying that it's impossible to have a crime that exists, right? Oh no, you know, I didn't realise I was robbing the bank, I was just doing what I was told. Oh, there's the money, pick it up, if you walk out that door and just put it in back of me 4x4 that's waiting down the road with the engine running, then that's fine, cheers, thanks, right? Just go up that hill, right? Oh yeah, we're just going to put a few houses up there, so, you know, it's okay, we've got all the planning's gone through, everything's alright, got permission, we're going to start digging, you know, and then, you know, when you're finished, take your pants down and go take a piss off the side in Waterloo, which the name popped up, God knows, between now and the dinosaurs, but, you know, not on fucking Speed's map anyway, right? Summer's popped up on Speed's map, 1,500 speed cameras in West Yorkshire. Not in other counties. Why is it West Yorkshire has got more speed cameras in the whole of England to get the locals, get the Brigantes people? It's not Maiden Castle. There's not one footstep on that hill fort to do with, you know, a construction or a building development, has there? Why is it completely, you know, no one on there? Why is it West Yorkshire is and has been under occupation and attack from the dominating forces? Am I lying? Am I lying? Are we ourselves under attack and being fined and marred by our own government and by the Tories building us crap houses? You know, yeah, what is Barry Sheeman doing? He goes into Parliament, does Barry Sheeman. He shouts louder than what I do across the table in the middle of Parliament, right? But yeah, he's been helping them because he's addicted and sold on their products and progress on their tech. Yeah, it's not progress. He doesn't know what progress is. Is progress a pile of records, cassette tapes and CDs? Right? Is that a pile of cassette tapes, records and CDs? Oh, it's progress now, right? Well, there's a museum for record CDs and cassettes where you can go look at the museum, right? So this is meant to be the museum to look at his history, but the joke museum is up the road with a massive joke gardens and parks around it, when there could have been gardens and parks on there, or there could have been houses up on there at a higher position with a higher view, right, with nicer gardens than what they've given them up there, right? So I'm not blaming the people who got the houses up there. Who is it on this council? Is it the actual councillors? How does Tyler Hawkins get selected and groomed through the Labour Party? How does Bernard McGuinn get selected and groomed through the Conservative Party? Someone's grooming them. It's like me. I've had things done to me and things happen where I've not really had any choice to do what I've had to do, like investigate all the planning corruption and things like that. Because of the merit that I don't like people who cheat and lie. So I get pissed off when I find out people have been cheating and lying. Yet now the government are encouraging it. They're encouraging people to do the dirty on the neighbours. Oh, neighbourhoods, as now as neighbours have got hood powers where we can't object against them. And now the council are going to support everyone who's shitting on the neighbours. Because Boris Johnson don't care. Because if anyone's got any problem with Boris Johnson's dad, it can be arranged that he'll be harassed by the media and then all files deleted until he blows his head off with a fucking shotgun. That's what the Tories are doing through their media technology, such as Rupert Murdoch. There's no trace on his mobile phone. Shot his wife and himself. Somebody drove him to it. Look at Kurt Cobain. Right? What about Kurt Cobain? Oh, penny royalty, penny royalty, penny royalty. Next thing, I blow my head off with a shotgun and Prince Philip is sniffing around at fucking Courtney Love's fucking hole because she's got a royal teapot and he wants to have tea with her. What's going on there? Andrew, sorry. What is going on with Andrew there? Right? Is that another royal serpent joke? Oh, he's done a penny royalty song. Next thing, boom! Right? And then Andrew's turning up at Courtney Love's house, her hole, wanting a cup of tea with her. Right? No wonder the Americans are prosecuting him in court for kiddie fiddling. There is something not right. There is something going on. Same with Boris's next door neighbour. And that's what Richard Tice is saying. Whoa, we can't talk about it. It's just a coincidence. Bollocks! Why is Liberal Dems Ciara Morrissey doing well? And then suddenly a kid called Ciara Morrissey's getting hit by a car. Bad press. We need to know this network of people and who they are. Who are they? The police can't investigate. They don't have the capacity to do it or the will. And they've been helping self-harm us. It's all right if you've done a serious crime, but when you're pottering about without really intent, right, they've been finding us and marring us, right, in his own county more than any other county. Mainly because they brought more people in here. When, you know, go back to the Yorkshire show, it's just like Wiltshire or somewhere else. But Sheeman thinks it's progress, having a world-leading chemical factory. Then, when they fucked it up, right, then, you know, oh, we're taking our production over to China now. Where are my trainers from? China. Where are my fucking trousers from? Japan. Oh, yeah, the headquarters is in London, right? And now, British manufacturing suffering. Oh, factories are shutting down. You know, we're taking abroad. You know, we're taking manufacturing abroad. So they didn't need to make the progress over here. What they did is, they just came and fucked it up, and now they're going to go somewhere else. Senseless. It's ridiculous. And I'll be the one who gets blamed. I'll be the one who gets the flag for it, just because I'm pointing it out. Yeah, Extinction Rebellion are going and sitting in the middle of the fucking motorway and putting the windows through on the banks. It's outside Parliament with thousands of people blocking London off, the entire streets, with Insulate Britain all around. It's ridiculous. And then there's now they've got the truckers in Canada blocking the roads off. And people in Australia kicking off. Mainly because of greed, and people can't help themselves, and that's why they won't help you, because they can't even help themselves, because they know deep down they're stuck in the cycle of various bad habits and addictions. They've got enough on with themselves dealing with it. So then when someone actually tries to do something, it's hard to get the support. Well, I don't know how Extinction Rebellion have done what they've done. I think it's been allowed because the government wanted to stir up some to a certain extent, and they were allowed to be wired funds through certain persons and get to a certain extent in protests, but they didn't actually grant them all of the proper rights. But they should have been acknowledged. That's the problem. We need to fight the people who are in charge. Unfortunately, a lot of them, not all of them, not every person, a lot of them aren't responsible enough or don't understand even what's happening around the country or world, because they just kind of got their head down in a mobile phone or gadget, or who's checking who's winning the latest football team, you know, or what's the latest tech gadget, you know, where, you know, you were supposed to have the surveillance camera, right? So we don't need to put the fences around the schools. If you've got cameras around the schools, why do you need the fucking fence? Because if a fence is progress, then you don't need security cameras, do you? With the fence, with the security camera, you know, then what? What's the next progress? Do a fucking roof over the top of the entire playground? You know, probably insulate it. Probably insulate the entire, you know, probably build the Borg building around the school so in winter they can play out football outside without being cold. Fuck me. Oh, we're playing football outside in the cold. Oh, well, you know, build the fucking Borg building around the entire fucking where the fence is around the school. Then they can be warm when they're outside the school as well as inside the fucking school. Is that progress? Like fucking B&Q? Next thing, instead of kicking a football around, they'll be kicking nuts and bolts around. See if you can fucking getting the ball through the goals. Can you get the fucking box of fucking staples on the fucking shelf, you know? On the head, son, over here. You know, fucking hell, he's a star player. Give him a B&Q fucking shirt, the cunt. Fucking B&Q sponsored. Champion fucking player, bang. Box of nails, bang. Fucking shelf. You fucking hero. 50 fucking boxes of fucking nails, you know, fuck me, that's it. They're playing for the wrong teams, It's always, oh, we'll get him on telly, everyone's cheering, get the crowd fucking, oh, it's fucking Philip Schofield! Philip Schofield! You cunt! Everyone cheer! Whoa, you fucking hero! You know, you can't get peace and quiet these days. That's the fucking problem. I don't actually know what's going on with this field here. It's that nice little garage or outhouse there. There isn't any animals in this field. See, if I go to that, if I went to that lane there, the roll of this hill, it starts taking the view away. So I think this is probably, or probably if I stand on this right up against here on this wall, I'll probably get a decent view. Let's see what that fence is there. We're going to go to this corner. It's actually a nice field here, actually. I get a nice vibe here. Don't know if it's because there's Kirk Eaton there. Kind of got a good feeling here. This is Lascelles Hall. So I think we've had, there's only about 1,200 or 1,300 people looked at the petition anyway so far. So that's how many signatures I could have got. If people have bothered looking at it, it's only about 1,200 and I've only got about 200 signatures. So I should really have about at least 1,000 signatures now. What the actual hell is going on here? There's looks like there's a car battery or something there. It's not an electric fence though, that, because it's just like, I've seen some of those up there. It's like plastic, they're just like plastic poles with like a tent spike in the bottom and with little cloth things on. There's actually a higher viewpoint up there. Like, higher up. There's something unusual going on in this field here. It has got a border to it here, but there's some strange... If the farm has been like, the thing I was saying about Castle Hill is it's been ploughed that much that it's smooth and flat. You get that at a lot of places near ancient sites. Now this has got some horses in, it's 4 horses that. So it's like a horse stables and run, and you don't get in from the other side. I think they just go to it. So that's permanent. That, well, they've blocked that field off, kind of like sort of. It's a bit of a extremely weak and amateur job at blocking it off. So I don't know how they get in to see the horses, because the other side's got some of those as well. So I don't know how they turn up to get here to see the horses. But it's 4 horses. But this isn't the next level up, as well as that. But this has got some weird. This has got some very strange earthworks going on here, shape. And in a field like this, it's kind of unusual. Unless there used to be a fence there. There's some weird... This here where I am now. This is kind of unusual to say it's farmland. Maybe there were a wall there. It looks weird. And then you've got these 2 rolling bits here. And this. I don't understand what's going on here. It looks very strange. Now, either that wall there and the other one, they've done it in layers, tiers. Maybe there was a wall there. But kind of looks a bit weird. It's kind of a bit like a lump there. There's a lump. There's like a lump there and a lump there, and sort of a lump here. And then like all this edge here. Kind of weird. It must have been a wall, but it doesn't go all the way to the end of the field. This is totally flat here. That dips down there. Dips down there. Usually when farmers plough fields, they're really flat. This is definitely a field. I mean, you'd have thought this would be a cricket ground because there's a house there. But this is strange. I wonder if there was some sort of temple or cairn chamber or something opposite. And if it was, then maybe it had some earthworks or something. It's kind of unusual. I wonder why this... Unless there was a... If this had been a wall, right? Why would it only go to here? And then just go like that there? It's the most unusual field that I've seen. It's really weird. It's funny that when I walked up that path, I kind of like this. I like this field. When I was up there, and when I walked all the way across those other paths and up Dalton Bank's an amazing view. Dalton Bank, you can see Dunelm from Dalton Bank, you can see Castle Hill, and you can see this here and the river, and you can see all like the river route and then the walk route from here to there. But I wouldn't have said even Dalton Bank's got really spectacular kind of elevated position. I've got this kind of like I've got this kind of nice feeling in this field. I kind of like it, and it's kind of just got a good vibe to it. I wonder why all these earthworks here. Probably a simple explanation for it. It does gradually taper off to here. That's unusual. There's actually this cool little tractor track up here. It's like where the tractor's made two little marks to come up into the field, and that's really cute.